Hi there. Yesterday's shock to the market brought many altcoins, even Bitcoin, to a level where people would, very few would guess. So for Solana, it's not too crazy of a case. It did fell through two key price levels. However, it reclimbed quickly back to the ascending channel that we have been talking about. So let's dive into both the weekly and daily charts and see where Solana is at and where it's heading. So if you're new to my sessions, uh, we'll cover Wyckoff stages, current and the next stages, plus key price levels that we have to observe, and also any breakout time point that's like showing us what kind of breakout event and when that would have potentially happen. So I've got a question. Hey Caesar, I wouldn't suggest people to buy or sell because every person's risk appetite is different. So if somebody is advising you to buy or sell without understanding your risk appetite and the capital you have, all that, it's not a responsible behavior. So be careful with those suggestions. And as for the market itself, we're going through a very volatile period, and that's why I always say if you are bullish or you are bearish, it doesn't matter. Always put in a stop loss because we can be wrong at any point in time during our trade life journey. Okay, I'll focus on Solana during this session. I'll get back to you for Uniswap whenever I get that covered. Um, all-time low is not something that's of a good reference in case of crypto, especially altcoins. Yesterday I made a separate video about the market crash, and I did mention in the video that altcoins especially are like startup companies. So whatever all-time low they had in the past doesn't mean it's the lowest point that they can get. So be careful of that. So here in Solana, I was talking about the price quickly reclimbed to within this upward channel box that started since as early as March this year. So that's good news or relieving sign for the bulls, meaning the challenge towards an upthrust of the distribution is still possible. This wick over here, yeah, it indeed has gone outside of the channel box, but that's I would say a black swan event. It's understandable that it go outside of it. This sign of weakness, we're still waiting for that to happen, and I'm going to keep this probability still at a higher level than the upthrust of the distribution, especially the certain uncertainty brought by yesterday's announcement by the President Trump. So this test has been confirmed, and this LPSY I would say is confirmed as well. This is not a PSY free unless it's realized as upthrust of the distribution later on. So it's still a question mark as of this moment, but this is certainly a test, and this would come after UTAD. So again, Wyckoff stage we touched on, and time point, right? So what kind of time point we're expecting? Here there's a cross somewhere near the end of November. So currently the price is trading within this triangle because of what happened yesterday that pushed the price into this triangle. So if the price continues to trade within the upward channel but suppressed under the 210 blue key level, which it did for 3 consecutive weeks back in mid-August all the way into the first week of September. When that happens, we'll eventually get closer to the breakout time near the end of or middle and end of November. Remember I said it always happened before the tip a lot of times, most of the times actually. And when that happens, it has to challenge this 210 level once again, breaking outside of it if the big guys want to stay within this upward channel. If there isn't sufficient demand, then it has to end this uptrend, and that means even if it wants to start a new trend again, it has to come back to retest this 180 light blue key level, and then having this bottom edge of the previous channel as resistance line, and that translates to an upthrust of the distribution, maybe getting into middle or even the third quarter of next year. So that's how things are going to get pushed to further down the timeline if the price really closes outside of this channel box without getting back to the same trajectory. So that's the big picture. Just quickly check the Bollinger Band current squeeze. Currently there's no squeeze. The swing is still continuing from the previous squeeze back in August, September last year. So we're still at this post squeeze period of swings. The magnitude is getting lower, so you see, if I turn it to a line chart, you see this big waves, but then we are getting lower and lower. That's the usual behavior after a squeeze. So let's get to the daily time frame. The lines are close enough that we may have a squeeze if the price continues to trade sideways in the near future. Just that this box over here isn't aligning much to what we had outside. So I am trying to pull this and set it to the following intervals so that we have the same box in both time frame. Previously I was drawing the box just for this mini climb, and this can be removed after the last few days events. We can draw new boxes, and just to adjust the box to a tighter range where we have this wick covered, today's candlestick covered, this wick definitely covered, and this wick over here. So it looks good enough for me as of this moment. Now we have to adjust the center line of the box. I explained many times the center line of the channel box doesn't have to be exactly at 50%, like cutting the box in half. It depends on how frequent the candlesticks are, like in the middle of the box, within the box, not near the edges. So that's where we're going to draw the center line, and that controls or indicates where potentially prices may bounce off. So there are three lines that prices can bounce off from: the ceiling and the bottom is well understood. So when the price gets close to those two lines, it's normal for them to bounce back to the other side. But then the center line as well, you see what happened here. It bounces a bit before it goes to the other side. Likewise here, and then here as well. So many occasions you will see the price without sufficient support or resistance, then it will do the bounce at the center line instead of the ceiling or the bottom. Okay, so this sign of weakness unfortunately have been confirmed. Likewise for the LPSY. So these tags, if you're new to my sessions, I usually add 2 to 3 more tags to indicate what potential stages will show up according to the Wyckoff method. Because in the daily chart, different from the weekly where we have time to wait for things to develop, in the daily chart, like in just a few days, 2 to 3 stages can happen. So after sign of weakness, what are we going to expect, right? So if it's continue going back to challenge the 210 level like we discussed, that means it's going to come back up here, and that potentially will bring us a new LPSY in the next few days, assuming that no crazy news is going to come out in the next 2 days, especially we are going through the weekend. And like I said, we're going to trade along this narrow triangle that leads to like somewhere near the end of November or beginning of December. That's where the breakout time point is. So we already talked about, I'm not going to repeat this one. And again, if it really falls outside of the upward channel, we'll have another sign of weakness and potentially a new where is it? We don't have it here. Yeah, there we go. Preliminary support, meaning it may re-enter a new accumulation cycle. Back in June to July, we had one at around the green key level of $150. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't dip much lower than that, because the selling climax back then was $125, the yellow key level, just because there was a upward channel box over there guarding it. This time, if it falls outside of the channel box and comes back down, there's no such channel box guarding the low around that level. So we can potentially fall through the 125 yellow key level and retest the 100 key level, much like what happened back in April. So March, April, that period have a couple of days fallen below the yellow key level. So that's one possible scenario if things really turn south. However, if you say maybe they'll, China and US both will get this sorted quick enough that the price will stay and break above this 210 level, staying within the upward channel box, then eventually we will have a chance to see the upthrust after distribution when the price comes up to challenge the 260 purple key level. Because when it eventually breaks outside of this ascending triangle, like I said, it will come to challenge the center line first, like what it did over here just a few days back. And then eventually that will get close enough to the purple line. So it doesn't really have to break to the upper half of the channel box in order to challenge the purple to give us an upthrust after distribution. It can just tag along the center line and then that's done. As simple as that. But obviously we know, because we know it's not that easy because of what's happening right now. It's just a hypothetical positive scenario of a lower chance. And okay, that's pretty much it for Solana. Hopefully things isn't going to get worse, and it's going to continue with its uptrend instead of ending it early. Thanks for joining me. See you in the next session. Oh, hey Caesar, are you talking about Solana lower than 185 on Tuesday? $185. That's the somewhere along the bottom edge of the channel box, and yeah, that's totally valid for what you're worrying about. And like I said, once this is broken, it can go very deep from there. So yeah, finger crossed. Remember, I've put in this message here. Good luck, everybody.